Yeah, at a screening. But we've never spoken before. This is an absolute honor for me.
Oh, likewise. But what do you know what screening we met? Oh, look, you have the world's greatest lover behind
I
you.
do. It's actually a little Carol
Yeah.
Kane festival.
Oh, it's so cool. I'm gonna try and pin this because I want to see. I never saw such a thing.
Yeah, and Hester Street's up here
Don't
in the
even have
corner.
Valentino.
Yep, yep. I
That's
rewatched so many of these films over the course of the last week.
the most amazing thing.
I
Oh,
oh
and
God,
you all, and you got Andy.
yeah,
Oh,
Ishtar is there. Carnal Knowledge.
oh,
Last
Ishtar.
Detail. Yeah.
Oh, the Ishtar. Oh my God, that is so great. I am so touched by that. Thank you.
Frank J. Avella here with the Contending. On today's Oscar Legends, I am delighted to have one of the most fascinating, enchanting, gifted actors working today. Oscar nominated in 1975 for her extraordinary work in Hester Street. Her eclectic film credits include Dog Day Afternoon, Annie Hall, Valentino, Princess Bride, Scrooged. I can go on and on. She won two Emmys for the TV series Taxi and recently appeared in the highly underrated Prime series Hunters. She has now delivered a brilliant performance in a new indie film called Between the Temples, one that should finally bring her more awards attention. It's a pleasure to welcome the incomparable Carol Kane.
Hi, Frank. Thank you so much for that intro. And I appreciate you said about the highly underrated hunters because I think David Weil, who created it, is an absolute genius, and the work was so incredible to me.
And you guys were such a magnificent ensemble. I mean, it was just an extraordinary show.
That's what I'm sorry to toot my own horn, but it's not just my horn, it's all the ensemble's horn and David Weil's horn. I have to say, I think so too, and I continue to be mystified as long as I live how they could cancel Taxi because of that ensemble and those writers, or Hunters or Kimmy Schmidt, or I don't I mean I've never been on a television show that's run a long time, but I consider that I've been so fortunate to be on so many good ones.
It's really true, and we'll talk about a bunch of those. I wanted to start though with Between the Temples. I love Carla so much. There's so many layers to her. Can you tell me a little bit about why you were drawn to playing her?
Okay, well, first of all, because just to be blatantly honest, I was drawn to say yes to the movie immediately because Jason Schwartzman was in it. And I just have been, I've adored him for so long, and I couldn't get over the opportunity to work with him. And then I saw Nathan Silver, our director. I saw this series of docs that he did about his mother called Cutting My Mother. And it was so great. So I had faith there too. And then, the story was fascinating and highly unusual. And if you'll forgive the pun, unorthodox. And so, yeah, that's why.
Wow. Well, I read that Silver and Wells, the writers, were influenced by Mike Lee, and I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about what that creative process was about for you.
First of all, I am also a long time admirer of Mike Lee. I had the opportunity to meet him not that long ago. He's so great. But anyway, that creative process was very different from anything I'd ever done because we did not have an actual quote unquote script. We had what Nathan Silver likes to call a scriptation. Uh, um, it was just sort of an outline of each scene with some dialogue, but the sort of essence of each scene was there. But it was more in like a chapter book form. And so, uh, no, not scriptation, excuse me, scriptment, script treatment.
Treatment. Ah.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I misspoke, and it's pretty important. So then I actually sort of thought I was gonna get a real script by the time we shot it, because I think that they were trying to go in that direction, but that's really, really, truly not the way Nathan works. And he works very uniquely, and you got to respect that. So when I realized a couple of days before the shoot that I wasn't going to get a script, I was pretty terrified. But then we talked through everything together, and uh, then we began, and I think I have such, I don't know, somehow my connection with Jason felt so like it'd been so long, even though I just met him, and that really facilitated a comfort in the improvisation. And we were given lines to the scenes the night before. And so we would start each scene by saying the lines as written. And then Nathan would say, no, 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 that's not it. That's not it at all. And then we would just start again and just sort of create the thing around the given lines and around what the nature of the scene was and the goal of the scene was. And it was very collaborative between me, Jason, Nathan, our DP, Sean Price Williams, who had to really just be in the scene with us. You know what I mean? Because it kept changing, and he was right in there, right? And that's very unique ability that he had. And it was really a wonderful learning experience for me.
Well, the two of you had such great chemistry, and I think it's one of the it ends perfectly. It ends exactly where it should end.
I think you're right. It's so obscure, the ending. You have no idea where we're going to go together. I think you know that we're going to go together somewhere, but where it is, you have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's such an interesting, almost 50 years ago, there's an interesting comparison that could be made with Hester Street because these are two female protagonists examining their identities. They're in different ways, but it's that part of it was really, really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look how privileged I am to be doing 50 years later another role that explores your identity and how you're going to move on in the world and in life. And yeah, they do have that in common.
Well, Carol, it's a testament to your career, and so I have an obvious question to ask you. Did you always want to act?
Unfortunately, Frank, I did. Ever since my poor dear mother brought me to see like Alice in Wonderland at the incredible children's theater in Cleveland, run by a man named Jerry Leonard, who was just extraordinary director. Um, and I think I was 6 or something when I saw that, and I just fell deeply in love with the idea of being on stage and being somebody other than myself. Just, imagining um, and then when I was little like that, my father was a brilliant architect, Michael Kane, and my mother's a brilliant musician, and she's still with me. And they had these great big books, photographs of art, photographs of ballet and theater, and these great picture books. And I used to take these books in the bathroom on Sunday and sit in front on the floor in front of the bathroom mirror. And they got me a makeup kit from FEO Schwartz, which I was in love with. And I would spend like hours and hours on end recreating the makeups of these different characters I saw. And I loved that. And And when I started in that children's theater, I would do anything. I would do makeup. I would be Tinkerbell, which meant you had to be um up on top of the theater with a little project, like a slide projector, and the light from the slide projector would be Tinkerbell, or serve hot dogs, or be
Wow.
in the plays. I would just do anything to be around it.
Amazing. Well, I mean, you started really, really young in film, desperate characters. I love you. You have one line in that film, and the one line is a very Gentile party. I
Ah,
love it.
yeah, and before I did any of that, I did a lot of extra work. I got my SAG card. I was privileged to get my SAG and equity card when I was 14. Because
Wow.
I also went on tour with Tammy Grimes in the prime of Miss Jean Brodie when I was 14 and started doing extra work. And the reason Carnal Knowledge happened is because there was this extraordinary gentleman named Vic Ramos who cast most of the extras in New York, and later became Matt Dillon's manager. But he remembered me when Juliet Taylor and Marion Dougherty were looking for this person for Mike for Hester Street. Mike was already shooting up in Vancouver. Juliet talked to Vic, and Vic said, I think I know somebody that fits that description. And he remembered me from extra work.
Wow.
And he gave Juliet my picture. And then they sent me up to Vancouver to meet Mike. And
That's extraordinary. And then you made another Jack movie, The Last Detail.
Mhm.
Uh, but I have to tell you, I watched Wedding in White, which was your first lead role.
Yes,
What an incredible, challenging role for somebody so young. I mean, you play basically a rape victim
I
in the
did
1940s. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
feel so lucky about that. Again, that's sort of an agent who wasn't even my agent, knew the producer, John Vidette, and hooked me up with the producer and director. And I went to Toronto and met them because it was a Canadian film, and somehow got that part. And
Mm,
I don't know, it's a very long story because I was also doing a play on Broadway, and they were generous enough to say that I could leave the show after opening night, go shoot for 5 or 6 weeks in Toronto, and then come back to the show. So they facilitated that for me. And then, unfortunately, we closed opening night. I mean, we closed the day after opening night,
oh,
that call, which I've never had before since, which is, come to your dressing room and clear out your stuff, basically. Woo.
uh,
And I was 19, and then I got to work with this genius actor, Donald Pleasance, and writer director Bill Fruitt, and Richard Leiterman, DP, and it was an amazing experience.
it's a great performance. I wanna shift now to Giddle.
I'm glad you saw that because not very many people have seen that, and I love that movie. I mean, it's a tough movie, but I love it.
It is tough, but it's on Tubi right now, so people can actually go, and I really highly recommend watching it on Tubi.
What is to be?
Tubi's a streaming service that's free with commercials.
Well, I'm going to tell, I know you won't put this in the thing, but I just had an interview with someone who said she tried to find it and couldn't find it. So I'll have them tell her that it's on Tubi.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
cool.
So I want to talk about Giddle and Hester Street now. Honestly, a really personal film for me because my mama came here from Italy and she was forced to assimilate by her family.
How old was she?
When she came, she was 30.
Oh, so she was quite a grown-up.
She was, yeah, but she left everything behind
Wow.
and, came to the great country. And her family, who were also literally off the boat, were like, no, no, you can't speak Italian anymore. You have to speak English. So much of that film I could really relate to.
Yes, well, that's interesting because I in preparation, I spoke to, many immigrants that were still alive and um, spoke to them also about the Yiddish and the traditions. And, people were very generous. And then I went to, Florida, Miami, to interview my mother's mother. Seal Fetterman was her name. She was a beautiful, intelligent woman. But that was her attitude was, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to talk about the Yiddish. I'm an American, like Jake.
I'm grateful, by the way, that my mother
That
refused to do that.
my grandmother who mirrored Jake in the sense that once he hit land, he said to Gitto, I'm an American now, and that's it, and that's all. And
Wow.
that was, but one had to have that attitude for survival. Many people felt that they had to. But so tell me a little bit more about your mama's experience.
They they told her not to teach me Italian because I was growing up speaking English and Italian. She didn't listen to
What about
them.
your dad?
My dad is also Italian, but was born here.
I
Uh,
see. Okay.
yeah, so he was assimilated and he was all for assimilating. Mom towed the line a little bit, and I'm really, really grateful because I'm really proud of my culture.
So
And
your mom resisted the idea that she should drop her past and
she
her.
did.
So good for her. So she was brave to fight for that.
She was. She was. Yeah, and she did have to fight too. But the
Um,
thing, bringing it back to
What, you're
Gittel.
Italian?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And now you're so grateful, right?
Incredibly grateful because I know the language. I'm proud of the culture. I can flee
Right.
there when Trump's in office.
Yeah, we're going to Paris. Just
Okay.
we have a plan. But now don't say when, because I think, I mean, I shouldn't say don't say, but I think we lately have a chance for that not to happen, don't you?
I do. I do. I feel excited for the first time.
I know, and I hope we're not being naive, and I don't think we're being naive, but it feels for the first time like maybe we have hope.
I agree. I completely agree.
We
Uh,
do.
Carol, what was the Oscar experience like? Because it was kind of a surprise nomination from everything I've read.
Oh my God, it was a total shock. I mean, yes, I mean, this movie cost $375,000, right?
Hmm.
And nobody knew who I was, and or Joan was for that matter, our director, and um Ray Silver, who is a brilliant businessman, who was Joan Silver's wife, wife, father, no, husband, and producer. Um, First of all, he took it upon himself to distribute the film. I think he went out to some distributors and they weren't interested in a black and white movie in which the leading lady spoke Yiddish for 90% of them. I don't know why, but and so Ray decided to distribute it himself. And I was, even though I was so young, I was 22 when I shot that. I was such a know-it-all because I had been in the business so long. And I went to Ray's office and tried to explain to him why he mustn't distribute it himself and that was a whole, learning curve and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I was such a moron because before talking to me, Ray Silver had the genius to reach out to John Cassavetes, who distributed all his films himself. And John, being who he is, he just gave Ray the whole lowdown, the whole process, the whole speech, the whole everything. He was so generous, as an artist and person. And Ray did a brilliant job of A, distributing, and B, he found this guy named Max Burkett, who was a retired publicist who had worked in the studio system, and I can't remember exactly. It was somebody like Jack Warner, one of those guys that Max had come up with, and he met me at a hotel. He said he liked to bet on a dark horse, and he talked to me for an hour or so, and he said he would do the campaign, right? And the last campaign he had done was out of retirement was Julie Christie and Darling, and she won,
Yeah.
right? So Max literally took the cans of film, which were quite heavy and large in those days, and he went over to Rosalind Russell's house, and Rosalind Russell invited Frank Sinatra and six other people. And then he took the cans of film to, I don't know, similar ilk of actor. And that person invited seven people or whatever. And Max went around Hollywood and did this. And that is why I got nominated, which was staggering. I owe it to Max. I owe it to Ray for his brilliance in finding that guy, And
But it's also your performance. Your performance in the film is absolutely incredible. Honestly, I think you should have won. And I've followed the Oscars for many years. I just think it's an incredible
well,
performance.
I'm not being overly modest. I just want to say that once you've been in show business for a while, you begin to understand that one thing does not necessarily lead to another. And even if you do a great performance, there's no guarantee that anyone will ever see it. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying that I owe that event, which is so unlikely to them, and of course to Joan and the rest of the cast, etc. But I just said, I mean, nobody knew who I was, and this guy carried the film around.
Were you able to enjoy the night of the Oscars?
I think I was so shocked. I was able to enjoy some aspects, but I was a nervous wreck, and I was there with my manager, Bill Tresh, who was such an incredible person who found Sissy Spacek and Peter Weller and John Hurd and Chris Walken, and he had all those people when they were young, Melanie Marin. Anyway, he took me, and I wore a dress designed by the great Theone Aldridge.
Wow.
And Theone I had worked with in the theater for Joe Papp. And she called me up when I got nominated. And she said, I wanna design a dress for you. And I had to pay for the fabric, which was like, who knows, $400. And she, designed this extraordinary dress for me. So I felt, pretty good in what I was wearing. And I did get to sit close to Jack because I guess the first couple of rows are the nominees, so that you don't have too far to get to the stage. And so that meant a lot to me to have him there, because that was like having a touchstone there, And I must say I felt extremely bad for Max when I didn't win, because I felt like, you know, I just wish for him, because and anyway, I mean, so yeah, so I didn't win, and that was very disappointing because you get so hyped up by the process. Everybody's calling you, everybody's sending you flowers, everybody's blah, 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 everybody wants to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. And then, but mind you, I was at the Beverly Hills Hotel doing the press, and I was on unemployment. So I was also collecting my unemployment. So, but then, so that hype, it was actually too much for me. I made some big mistakes turning down some work after that because I couldn't take it. It was too much for me. But so anyway, I didn't win. Go home, wake up the next morning. Something's wrong with the phone. It stopped ringing. There's no flag.
Oh,
There's no nothing, right?
no.
The phone rings at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's Jack, who won the night before. And he says to me, Whitey, that's what he calls me. You want to have lunch with me and Angelica at El Cholo's? That's his favorite Mexican joint. Uh, I said, oh God, yes, please. And he picked me up at 12 and we went and had lunch. And I love to tell this story because it's so extraordinary to me. It almost sounds like a fairy tale, even though I lived it, that he so knew what that morning after felt like and how suddenly nobody is interested in you anymore. So it's like so abrupt.
Mm,
And so he made sure to call.
that is extraordinary. It's lovely, actually.
It's so lovely. It's sort of hard to believe, but I know it happened.
That same year, you were in one of the Best Picture nominees, Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, that's cool, right?
Yeah, yeah, another amazing. I wanna ask about Annie Hall because you have one of my favorite lines of all time. That was wonderful. I love being reduced to a cultural stereotype. Uh, and
Thank
your
you, Eddie. Thank you, Eddie.
and the Kennedy conspiracy theory scene is just classic, brilliant comedy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was a great gift to get to do that. Work with Woody, who's still an enigma to me, but who I think is a genius. And I hope I did okay for him. I know there was one scene that got cut out that I was supposed to do with him because I was supposed to play the cello. My character was supposed to play the cello, Allison. And I studied and studied with this cellist, and I thought I was doing a good job because I got the fingering. And then came the day to shoot that scene, and I started playing with the proper fingering, but I forgot about the fact that the sound that was coming out from the cello when I played it was so awful that Woody was like, I don't think so. And the whole crew was like laughing, and it was awful. I was awful. So that got cut.
Oh, I wish Woody kept outtakes. He's notorious for not keeping outtakes.
Oh, is that right? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Yeah.
After that, you had two more comic roles, The World's Greatest Lover, and in Valentino, it's kind of a comic role, Fatty's Girl, and you got to work with Ken Russell.
Uh, uh, I don't think of that as a comedic role. I mean, I was basically playing Nazimova, who was Valentino's first wife. And so I certainly didn't research it with any thought to it being funny. I don't know if it was funny or not, but I
I
just,
think the dance was funny, the dance with Nureyev.
well, see, once again here, I'm doing my best and it's not working out. But
No, you're doing great. Are you kidding me?
it was so much fun, if you can imagine, to study with and dance with Rudolf Nureyev. This is the magic of what I get to do, is I get to learn all this stuff that I have no right to learn, because that's what's required for the role.
Well, and you also, I mean, you work in every genre. Like next was the When a Stranger Calls, and you kind of became the horror movie queen, but then you didn't make more horror movies, which good for you, by the way. Uh,
Listen, I have to be honest with you. Nobody asked me. This is how it's been. Nobody asked me to work after Hester Street for a year. And then I don't know how it happened that Gene called me to do a comedy. I'd never done a comedy. Um, After Stranger, nobody asked me to do any more horror I mean, that's sort of some people's careers go that one thing leads to another, right? And mine has not exactly gone that way. I've been privileged to work with the greats, but it's never been consistent and could be me because I became known for a movie that, there was not another one of, which is playing a Russian Orthodox Jewish Yiddish speaking woman at the turn of the century. There's not a whole lot of those.
Mm-mm.
Maybe that's why, I don't know why, but that's sort of been a lifelong experience for me. That
Well,
one thing does not lead to another.
in the early 80s, you conquered comedy. I've been rewatching some of the Taxi episodes,
Um,
and honestly, the comedy from Simca is so organic. Can you speak a little bit about looking back and what Simca meant to you and to your career?
okay, it just comes down to a couple things. Brilliant, brilliant writing. So specific. Each character in Taxi had a voice that was so specifically theirs. Later on, I realized how rare that was because I did other work where if a line didn't work for your character, you didn't get the laugh or something, they'd give that line to a different character. And it really didn't matter because it wasn't written like for your voice. It was just a comedy line that was written.
Yeah.
So, but we in Taxi were spoiled by the fact that Jim Brooks and Ed Weinberger, Stan Daniels, they wrote these characters so brilliantly. And then there was Andy, and then I got to take from him, the whole idea of someone from that country, and he taught me the voice and he taught me his attitude. And then I must say, and it was a shocking lesson, but Jim, the first time I did Taxi, I looked down on it because I looked down on TV because back in those days, movie actors and stage actors didn't do television. And I decided I was offered that and I didn't, think I would do it. But then I saw that Jack Gilford was in it, playing Judd Hirsch's dad. And I thought, oh my God, if Jack Gilford is gonna do it, then I'm going to do it. So I did it, but my attitude was very much that I would approach it as I would any dramatic role. Half hour came and Jim Brooks knocked on my door to give me a note. And I said, Jim, it's after half hour. Because from the stage, once the stage manager calls half hour, that's it. That's
Mm.
your private time to prepare. And I thought Jim was like from Nabisco or something because he was the producer. And I didn't know anything about television, that the producers are the writers. And Jimmy Burrows was from the theater and very serious in the way he approached things. And so that first time, that's how I was, right? I took it very seriously. Then I realized who they were and what they were doing. And by the time I saw Jim again, and told him I'd like to do it again, it was because I figured out what they did, you know.
Mm.
And then I came back and then we did a run through early in the week as you did each day. You do run through in front of the producers and then they'd rewrite, and fix it and fix it and fix it. And I wanted so badly to please Jim and Ed and Stan. I wanted to be funny. And there I was up there trying to be funny in the run through. And Jim, thank gosh, God bless him, um, lit into me. And he said, you don't try and be funny. If we wrote it funny, it will be funny. If we didn't write it funny, then we have to fix it. But you don't go out there and try and be funny.
Mm.
How lucky was I?
Yeah. Yeah.
How lucky was I? And so that's interesting the way you sort of, I don't know exactly what you said, but you sort of picked up on that that it wasn't approached as here I am doing comedy, that those people that they wrote, they were three-dimensional. As you know from watching the show, many episodes ended in a rather
Very
sad,
serious. Yeah.
serious, tragic way. Well, that was unheard of, for a comedy. It was so brave. And then they demanded that we all be as brave as them. They had already done Mary
Yeah.
and so that was such a privilege. Oh my God.
Mm. Well, it stands the test of time because they stand up. They really do. You did a number of incredible. I think Ishtar is underrated. I just want to say.
This
Um,
that's happening now. People are starting to rediscover it.
yeah, I think it's a really good film.
Hey, for Elaine, that she'd get a little bit of her due. She never gotten her due. I mean, look at A New Leaf and look at Heartbreak Kid. And I mean, yeah.
No, she's incredible. You're absolutely right about that. And then you were part of the Princess Bride ensemble, and you get asked about Princess Bride all the time, so I'm skipping directly to Scrooged because it's one of my husband's favorites, and we watch it every Christmas, and it's become one of my favorites, but I know it was a little bit of a troubled shoot. You are zany off the wall, though, as Christmas present. Unbelievable performance. Should have gotten an Oscar nomination.
Okay, well, thank you again. You are my biggest fan. I wish that your dreams would come true for me. Your dreams are my dreams. But now, okay, again, and I think I'm being repetitive and harping, but the writing was Michael O'Donoghue and Mitch Glazer, and my part was so brilliantly and hysterically written because I was such a tough guy.
Yeah.
Little Fairy, who was a tough guy. And that is such an original concept, that a fairy wouldn't be like a fairy, but that I got to be like that fairy until it came down to it. And then I got to be like Jimmy Cagney or something, so that was a privilege and Dick Donner and now when you say troubled shoot,
I
can you
had read that there was some issues with it was mostly between Dick Donner and Bill Murray, so we don't have to get into that.
yeah, I
But
don't know. I guess it doesn't matter because in the end, I think that it came out very well. I think that that was kind of underrated too, except now that it goes on TV every year, people are making up their own minds about it.
and watching it every Christmas. I wanna speak about another the Lemon Sisters. Honestly,
Oh, I
there
love
is such a good film in there, and
yes.
you are so good as Frankie.
Oh, well, that was another great part. And then I got to work with my, dear, dear friends, Catherine Grody and Diane Keaton. I got to sing, I got to dance, I got to work with Paul Schaefer. I think it's a good movie. And again, I don't think too many people saw it.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm not sure why. I remember seeing it when I was in college, I believe. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You've seen everything. I want to commend you. You are a real, no, I'm not kidding. You're a scholar.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
you're a
you.
film scholar, and that doesn't, I don't talk to a lot of people who, most people have seen The Princess Bride and most people have seen Dog Day Polly or whatever, but you've seen everything.
I do try I consider myself a cinephile, so yeah, I do see a lot.
Wow.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to ask about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Here is another TV show. Lillian, what a treat. And again, different from anything you've ever played.
Thank you so much. God, you're so great. How much do I have to pay you for this interview? I mean, you're amazing. Yeah, well, again, here I go again, broken record, writing, 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 Tina Fey, Robert Carlock, writing, writing, writing. How
And
about
Ki
somebody says to me, she has hair like beautiful spaghetti in Kimmy Schmidt.
oh yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah.
mean, what a
Genius.
yeah. Anyway, Go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
no, we spoke about hunters and playing Jewish superheroes, hunting Nazis. First of all, what a brilliant premise. They
Incredible.
they should bring it back because we need it today.
You know what? You are so right. You are the first and only person that said that to me, but you are so right. But I wonder, I don't know why they took it off, but I wonder if, I don't know. But
Maybe
I
some
agree with you. I agree with you.
I wanted you're in Star Trek Strange New Worlds right now and also Dinner with the Parents, which I got to watch a few episodes of. Very funny. It's a very funny show.
Dinner with the parents.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so, but I guess we're not getting picked up by Freebie. Freebie? Yeah.
freebie, yeah.
But maybe I'm still naively keeping my fingers crossed that CBS apparently is behind it and still trying. But yeah, I think it's a funny show. I think it's got a good cast. I think if they'd let us go one more season, it would have gotten better and better. So there you
And
go.
Strange New Worlds, how has the Star Trek universe treated you?
So beautifully. Uh, I have no, again, like when Gene called me for World's Greatest Lover and I never did a comedy before, I never done a comedy before. I had that same like out of body experience when they called me to do Star Trek. I thought, uh-oh, okay, someone has made a mistake. They think I'm someone else because why would anybody call me to be in Star Trek? I knew nothing about that world at all, which I was very nervous about. I thought, oh, they're going to find out. I never even watched Star Trek. But in fact, the producers said in a way they were really happy that I didn't know anything about it because it lent itself well to the character. I like the way that character is written, that I'm not a regular, still a guest star. But that ensemble has taken me in like a member of the family. From the very beginning, my first day of work, my first several days of work were intense stuff with Ethan Peck,
Mm.
who just is such a mensch. And they're all, I mean, I love them. I just did my first Comic-Con. I've never done one in my life. And Chris Lloyd was there because he does a lot of them as Doc. But then he was also in a Star Trek. So it was a Star Trek Comic-Con in Las Vegas. And they were all there. And they just treat me like family.
That's fantastic. I have a couple of more questions for you. Do you have a favorite role that you've played?
I mean, of course, Ghetto might be the most fleshed out part because I get to have that, huge arc of change, and it really follows me in that arc. And that's how, again, how she wrote it, but it's shot so beautifully by Ken Van Sickle and everyone. Anyway, so I think maybe Ghetto, I'd have to say might have been the most complex or thoroughly three-dimensional part been given. But then I would be wrong if I said that because what about hunters? And I consider the last detail a great, great part, even though it was only, I don't know how many minutes, and I Scrooge. So I guess and the character in Wedding in White. So I guess I have to say no, I don't have a favorite because I think I've slightly fallen in love with all of them.
With Giddle, you got Stephen Keats was so good in that film, and you know, it's so tragic what happened to him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if your audience knows, but he took his own life.
Yeah,
And he had two beautiful sons, and he was a great menschy guy. You know, it's so hard to figure out why that happens and that it does happen so frequently.
yeah, yeah, too frequently.
Very frequently.
Um, Carol, who and not just one person, but who gave you the most joy to work with?
Oh, not just one, you said.
No, you don't have to choose
Okay,
just
the
one.
first name that sprang to my mind was Hal Ashby because I think uh he just got such a kick out of everything. He was always ruining the takes like Rob Reiner because they would laugh out loud. In terms of the person that is most significant to me in my life, that's Mike. That's Mike Nichols.
Hmm.
In terms of the person who's equally significant to me in my life is John Cassavetes, is Jenna Rollins, is Jack, is Diane, is I can't say.
You just did. That list is extra, and we.
I'd love to do something else with Bill Murray. I'd like to do a drama with Bill Murray. I,
Mm,
my secret dream, which is not secret because I'm telling you, and because I don't see it happening anymore, is that I always wanted to do Long Day's Journey into Night with Bill. Don't you think
wow.
there's a genius in that part? I don't know if you know
Oh,
this.
I know it really well, and I think you would be amazing as Mary.
No, but I'm not. Yes, okay. I think that's okay. I think maybe I could do that. Although I saw Vanessa Redgrave do it, so that's a little intimidating. But can you picture Bill in that part?
Yeah, he would be amazing.
Um,
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah, and the
And
two of you.
well,
Um,
it'll still happen. I'm gonna cross my fingers.
what projects are up next for you that maybe you could tell us about?
Okay, well, darling, not very much. I next year I'll do some more Star Treks. But only I think four of them, which I wish I was doing more, but that's what they've said so far. Then I I just got something that means a great deal to me because it's with a genius director, but it's 2 days of work and no money. But I admire this director so much. And
I'm guessing you can't tell us who it is.
I feel like maybe I shouldn't because I didn't do it yet. What if
Okay.
I did a bad job? And also I'm about to work with an actress who I love very much, who I think is another genius. Uh, that's Natasha Lyonne. I'm about to do
Oh,
a little something with Natasha. And I played her mother in this movie called Clutter. I don't know if maybe even you haven't seen that, but
I saw Clutter.
what?
Yes.
So you remember that she and I was her mother, and
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have all these wonderful small roles in films. And so when you get something like Between the Temples to basically wrap everything up here, it's such a joy to see you and what you can accomplish and what you do accomplish in this leading role. It just it's so multifaceted. Between the Temple, you are so good in this film.
God, thank you so much. As our people say, from your mouth to God's ears, right?
Well, Carol, this has been an absolute privilege for me.
Like,
Um, and I look forward to seeing decades more of Carol Kane doing all this eclectic work that you do.
thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you again.
I can't wait.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.